I've been a capital G with a 3 gamer for a few years now and played a large number of the must-play games throughout history, but there's one prominent gaming icon whose games have largely eluded me, probably because he's so fast. So please join me, Hydrated Gaming, as we begin our fantastical voyage into the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Now, if you're not familiar with the history of Sonic, I'll fill you in real quick. Our story begins, as most great epics do, with jealousy. Nintendo was killing it in the video game world with its Nintendo Entertainment System and mascot, Mario. Sega knew that if they were going to improve their market share for their Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis as it was called in the country with its flag on the moon, it would need a mascot of its own. So an internal design contest was held, and the creations were presented to random passerbys in Central Park of New York City. As a result of all this, the Hedgehog design won, with the Teddy Roosevelt-inspired Eggman drawing also finding some love within the company. The idea behind Sonic's design is that it would be easily recognizable and also simple for children to draw. But if you spent any time on the internet, you'd know that that last part is dubious at best. Even a $1 million movie studio botched drawing him on their first go. To be fair, Mario wasn't much of an easy-to-draw mascot either. Even Nintendo's first go at it didn't look like the real Mario. It looked more like an off-brand pizza place that would share a parking lot with a mattress firm. Sonic's color was chosen to match Sega's logo, makes sense, and articles online suggest his shoes were a combination of Michael Jackson and Santa Claus. I didn't know Santa Claus wore such stylish kicks. Let's see, says here his personality was inspired by Bill Clinton. Well, that's not great. And he was going to have a human girlfriend named Madonna. Fantastic. It's nice to see that right from the start this series' identity was just all over the place. Now real quick, I am aware that for a time it became very popular to dunk on Sonic online, and to just laugh at the series because it was in a bit of a rough patch and because Sonic was stupid and goofy and they kept adding all these ridiculous characters like Gun the Hedgehog, Mark Davis the Hedgehog, and now Loading the Hedgehog. But I won't be doing this because despite not growing up with Sonic at all, and not even being willing to try out the series until the last 5 years, I kind of really like him for reasons I really don't know. And it's not the new popular movies, as they didn't really click with me. To me, they feel like they're too scared to just pull from the fun stories from the games. I watched Sonic 1 and all I could think of is, why is Cyclops in this movie? Why is Air Bud in this movie? Why is Olive Garden in this movie? Maybe it's because I'm a dad now, and if being a Shadow the Hedgehog fan is what constitutes the next generation's rebellious phase, I'm all for it. Also, I think our culture may have deteriorated so badly that anything from the 90s or early 2000s is just automatically appealing, when Sega vs. Nintendo is what divided us most. And because Sonic, despite being made by Japanese guys, does feel like it captures the spirit of 90s America, I'm kind of down with it. I say that as a precursor because I want you to know that I intend to be fair with the series. And quick spoiler, I do really love some Sonic games, even if they are flawed. Short personal story, a poor college-aged Hydrated Gaming had no job, but somehow did have a girlfriend. And if I was going to be able to afford to take her out on dates all the time and marry her one day, I would need to save every penny I had. And you know what's expensive? Video games. But I was really getting into the history of gaming, and more than anything, I wanted to start collecting some of these old games and systems. So it was off to Goodwill, which is a thrift store chain for those who do not live in the land of the free. And what do I find in my very first outing? But a Sega Dreamcast with a copy of Sonic Adventure 2 in it. I played it and I adored it. And it has a very special place in my heart as the game that started my hoarding habit. That being said, as you can see from the title of this video, I absolutely despise the first game in the series. But before we get to that, the actual first appearance of Sonic the Hedgehog was as a decoration hanging from a car mirror in the racing game Rad Mobile. This game has never been re-released, so that's all I can say on the matter. But the actual first game in the Sonic series, if you want to be incredibly picky, is Flicky. Flicky is the name of the species of bird in the Sonic series, but it's not one particular bird, basically think Yoshi. They've been in the series since Sonic 1, but their game of origin, also just called Flicky, was released in arcades in 1984 in an effort to compete with Namco's Mappy. The game was originally going to be called Busty, but some localizers wisely asked for that to be changed. The version we're looking at here is the Genesis one played through Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection on the 360. So how's the actual game? Honestly, it's pretty great. I kinda love Flicky. The controls are a bit strange and floaty, but you're a bird, so that makes sense, and you'll adjust to them pretty quickly. The goal of this game is to avoid the cats and iguanas while rescuing your chicks and taking them to the door with the bright exit sign. There may be a million cats everywhere, but it's nice to see these buildings are up to code. The more chicks you take to the door at once, the more points you'll get, but if the chicks hit an enemy, they'll split from your party and you'll have to pick them up again. If you hit an enemy, you'll lose a life. You defeat enemies by flicking these random decorations at them, like old landlines and stuff. What makes this hard is that there's a limited number of them, and the jump button is also the same as the flick button. So you have to throw away your attack in order to jump, making for another strategic risk versus reward situation. It's solidly designed, it looks nice, and it's a good game. Of all the arcade games I've played, it's probably one of my favorites. It's playable on Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection on 360 and PS3, and the Sega Genesis Classics Collection, which was just delisted, but there are physical copies that you can track down for PS4, Switch, and Xbox. Now, is it worth almost $50 for an original complete in-box Genesis copy? Well, this box art is great, but unless you're swimming in gravy, I'd have to say no. And that's my review of Flicky. 8 out of 10. Pretty fun arcade game. Alright, fine. Enough distractions. Let's get into Sonic 1. Sonic the Hedgehog is obviously the first game in the mainline series, and honestly, after playing it, I'm kinda surprised it's even turned into a series. I understand that a lot of people grew up with and love this game, and if that's you, hey, don't let me get in the way of that. I've been defending the Nicktoons series on PS2, I probably have no room to talk here. But I have to say, as a newcomer, I really do think the only reason people can defend this game is either nostalgia or because it gave us Sonic. And hey, starting one of the most beloved series can't be understated, and I'm glad it exists for that reason alone. As a game on its own though, I feel like it's downright terrible. I hate it because I feel like it despises me for having the nerve to play it. The story is the classic Sonic story. Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik as he was called at the time, is turning these woodland creatures into robots. Go stop him. I really like having Sonic rescue fellow animal buddies instead of Madonna. It makes it feel different from other games at the time where you just rescue a princess. Sonic here is just a man of the people. The first world, Green Hill Zone, needs no introduction. It's fun, it's fast, it's well designed. It's got branching pathways, times you need to be careful, and times you can just go fast. The enemy placement is just right, and these 3 stages are just a great time. There's a reason they bring Green Hill back every 2 seconds. Playing this gets you excited for the rest of the game, and honestly this is where the cruelty begins. Cherish Green Hill Zone because everything after this point is basically dreadful. And that includes the special stage to get the Chaos Emeralds. You have to bring 50 rings to the end of the stage to even reach these, which just isn't going to happen in later zones. Playing these stages immediately reminded me of the pachinko machine level from Super Mario Sunshine as I just jam the sticks in different directions and Sonic does whatever it is he feels like. Beating this nabs you a Chaos Emerald and a Continue. That's right, this unfair game which hates me for breathing has a live system which will restart you at the very beginning of the game, not the world you're on, if you run out of lives. If you're on the final boss fight and lose, it's back to level 1 with you. You start with 0 continues and only earn them after beating the special stages, which are dreadful, so good luck with that. I said no thank you to all this and just use save states. I played this game on the Sega Genesis Mini, so I had no issues with doing this. Apparently there are level select codes that you can use to mitigate this issue as well, but you shouldn't have to do all this. This is just stupid design that I'm glad we no longer have in 99% of games made today. Any game that does this immediately loses points with me. After Green Hill, you're off to Marble Zone. I don't find these stages to be too difficult, rather I find them to just be kind of boring and generic. They're so slow, which is a complaint I always see about this game online, but honestly, I can handle slow. Slow is the least of this game's problems, and honestly, I would rank this as 3rd in the world listing. Springyard Zone is up next, and here is my hot take which separates me from pretty much everyone else online. This is my least favorite zone entirely because of Stage 3. I'd rank it below even Labyrinth Zone because of how much I despise this one stage. For me, Springyard 3 was the hardest in the game because of these stupid half-pipes with these spiky balls. I hate these, I can never seem to land on the gap in the middle. The physics on these absolutely suck, and it's so annoying to try to get out of these things. When you're not doing that in this stage, you're waiting for these stupid slow blocks that are no challenge at all. They're just here to take up time except for when they glitch out and kill you for no reason at all. Then you got this invincibility power-up that you find which makes you think there's going to be enemies ahead, so you better sprint forward and kill as many of them as you can like in every other video game ever made. But in Sonic 1, nah, how about this bottomless pit, the only trap useless for invincibility? That isn't very kind, Sonic developers. Then when you finally manage to reach the end, you have to fight Eggman in one of his harder boss fights. I kept getting stuck on this stage as I would reset the entire level if I died because I didn't want to restart the whole game or deal with entering codes which wouldn't have solved anything anyways. And I found this to be the most miserable level. I'd say it's rivaled only by one other level that we'll get to in a second. What makes this worse though is that they put the word cope flashing in the background. Did they know this stage was miserable? Is this cruelty on purpose? Jumping ahead because I want to make this point together with the other most miserable stage. The next zone is Labyrinth Zone, which I think every Sonic fan knows is terrible. You have to deal with these slow and annoying water physics and camp these bubbles for oxygen. What happened to gotta go fast? This is a horrible experience and there's frustrating traps, dead ends, and you can fall and lose all your progress. Sometimes you end up getting turned around and going the wrong way. It's all just dreadful. And then as the cherry on top, after one of these complex, slow, and time-consuming levels awaits the most challenging boss fight. You have to climb to the top of this obstacle course before the rising water reaches you, and you have basically no room for error at all. It stinks, especially when you try to keep hitting Eggman. I kept dying at this part over and over again, but when I finally reached the top it was almost worse, as Eggman just ran off. I don't even think I needed to hit him this whole time. What is this sudden change? No other Eggman encounter is like this. Again, what is this design? These levels, Springyard 3 and all of Labyrinth Zone, are the low points of the game. They're tedious and slow and full of beginner's traps. The bigger problem is that though these are the most notorious, this game design philosophy still permeates throughout the entire game. Like this part in Springyard Zone Stage 2 where I finally make my way down and it says, nope, go up. It feels like playing one of those Mario Maker stages designed by an annoying 12-year-old with the laughing sound effects when you get stuck. I almost feel like the developers were taking their frustrations with life out on the player. Like, oh, you didn't like Altered Beast? Fine, let's see how you like this. Sega, I'm sorry I didn't buy a Genesis in 1990. I wasn't alive at the time. Please stop taking it out on me. The next world, Starlight Zone, I find to be a big step up from the other stages. I also love the music in this stage. It feels so calming and it's almost like a sigh of relief after the train wrecks that you just made it through. There's some garbage here like there is everywhere in the game, but it's a pretty fun zone, all things considered. Scrap Brain Zone is pretty much the same story, but with a little more annoying design tropes sprinkled in here and there. Nowhere near as bad as Spring Yard 3 or Labyrinth Zone, but not exactly great either. I wrote a note here that says Scrap Brain Zone, more like Scrap This Lame Zone, am I right? Then after this you have the final boss fight. The final showdown with Eggman is fine, if a little on the easy side for a final boss, but after all the crap I went through to get here, I wasn't going to complain about it being a little simple. After beating Eggman, you get a nice cutscene of Sonic running through Green Hill with the rescued animals, and since there weren't enough already, there's one final middle finger from the game in the form of Eggman holding the Chaos Emeralds from the special stages you didn't beat, telling you to try again, making you feel like your victory didn't really even count. This could have been a game over screen, it's such a downer. And no game, I won't be trying again. I am done with this. Look, I know for a lot of people out there, this is their favorite game of all time, and again, if that's you, I'm happy for you. But unless you grew up with this, I don't understand how someone could say this is a well-designed game. Am I missing something? This is the game that supposedly rivals Mario? I'm so confused that I'm a little nervous to post this. Like, was there some technique I'm missing here? Is there a button that I'm not pressing that does something important that I should be pressing? As I was playing this when thinking of the design philosophy that produced this, all I could think of was this image. I feel like the developers really hate me, the player. With beginners, traps, weird physics, and just bewildering level design, it almost feels like it was built to be frustrating, like that was the intent. That was supposed to be the fun. I know with Sonic games, you're supposed to do repeat playthroughs after you know the optimal routes for speedrunning, and this is supposed to make the game even more fun, after you've already learned all the beginner's traps and secrets and stuff. But in order for me to want to replay and speedrun a game, I have to at least enjoy it to start with, and with this game I just don't. Nowadays, the Sonic team's game design philosophy has changed. One of their directors is credited as saying, "I hear Sonic's voice in my head, and we're going to keep developing until Sonic says it's a good game." And that's a bit concerning, yet very exciting to hear. I don't think there's anything wrong with having the first game in the series be bad by today's standards, and based on what I've read online, we're only going up from here, and I'm excited. Sometimes it takes a few tries to get things right. That being said, of all the games I've played for this channel, Sonic 1 is regrettably near the bottom of my ranking, beating out only Endless Ocean Luminous and Crayola on Wii, but I'm not sure that's an accomplishment. I give it a 5 out of 10. I love the way it looks, I love the way it sounds, but I hate the way it plays, and it hates me back, don't worry. If this was pretty good for the time, thank goodness the times have changed. Today I only recommend playing this if you can both use save states and really feel like you need to try out the first game in the series. But if you really feel like you have to play the first game in the Sonic series, just play Flicky.